Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today on Exflow and specifically their AP automation tools. I have Toby and Emil from Exflow. And Toby, over to you. I'll let you continue on with the introductions.
Thank you so much, Scott. And as Scott mentioned, my name is Toby Thorson. I'm head of marketing at Sign Up Software, and we're the ones who deliver the solution Exflow. Exflow is a AP automation solution that's been in the market since 2003. So the first solution we developed Exflow for was Navision way back in the early 2000s. So we've been in business for nearly over 2 decades. We started out in Scandinavia, but now provide our solution globally. We only do AP automation. We do it inside Business Central. So it's an embedded solution. It's not a bolt-on solution, which means that we can leverage all of the capabilities that you have in Business Central, and there's no need to duplicate data. You're working in real time all the time. We have a subscription-based price model, so it's based on the number of invoices you process as well as the number of approving users. We have a global footprint in all industry verticals, and we have approximately 600 customers on Business Central and NAV. In total, we have more than 1,200 customers. So half of our business is on F&O, half of it is on Business Central. We are a Microsoft preferred solution, and of course, we're available on AppSource, so you can find the solution there. When we're looking at AP and invoice processing, well, there's a lot of challenges for that, and over the past 2 years, those challenges have increased, not only due to the pandemic, but also due to the shift that we are now more accepting towards remote work. But what AP automation is, it's really a way to cut down process costs. So you can look at it from, you're probably cutting down process costs by maybe 60%. You're lowering the processing time of throughput of invoices by almost 2.5 times. AP processing is traditionally also a very error-prone process because you're inputting data into your solutions. You're basically looking at things on a piece of paper, putting it into a solution. What this does, it basically automates all of that. So it increases coding accuracy. It increases accounts payable support to the business by being able to provide coding already for them to actually not just, so your business users don't have to code the invoices. You improve consistency because you are coding your invoices the same way all the time. AP processing used to be very limited by lack of visibility. Today, with the remote work, with the economic impact of the pandemic, suppliers are increasing their calls to accounts payable, asking, when am I going to get paid? If you have a manual process, this increases the amount of time that you're actually spending on answering questions to suppliers. AP automation, by automating the process, putting it in at all of the data at your fingertips, it lowers that and increases the visibility. It also, and this has been very significant over the past year, AP processing has seen a very high increase in the risk of fraud because people are taking advantage of the remote people working remotely, not being able to approve invoices. So risk of invoice fraud has increased by more than 20%. When we look at what AP automation inside Exflow, inside Business Central is, well, what we say, we provide a best-in-class AP automation solution that's embedded into your ERP solution. And with best-in-class AP automation, we mean an efficiently streamlined invoice processing solution. We mean that it's mobile. It means that you can approve your invoices at any time on any platform, anywhere. So we're seeing that the processing or the turnaround time for approving invoices is being cut really much. We're increasing the visibility because we're providing full transparency across the entire process. So if the supplier calls, you will be able to see exactly where in the process that invoice is. And that's not only for accounts payable. Even if you call the business users who has ordered the product, they can see if they have approved it, is it going to be paid on time? Where is it in that process? We also provide this as we're built into Business Central. We are a Microsoft-only solution. We can provide you with Power BI dashboards right out of the box, so you can build it into your Power BI environment as well. Having all of this process digitized means that you increase control. And this is one of the highest benefits of AP automation. It's basically that you push all of your invoices into one process. So you're complying with your company policy. There's no one that does things differently. You're minimizing the risk of fraud. You're increasing the amount of control that you have in your invoice process. There's no way to get duplicate invoices into the solution. Exflow will warn you if a supplier or if you get a fraud invoice that has the incorrect bank details, for instance. All of this, of course, adds up to lower processing costs. It also allows you, by increasing the speed of the process, you can start to capture discounts, and you can work with your procurement departments to actually negotiate early payment discounts. You will also then, of course, lower the risk of having to pay penalties for late payment. As Exflow is embedded into Business Central, there is always just a single source of the truth. There's no integrations, there's no duplication of data. Everything that you do is in real time. And Emil will show this in his demo, that you can actually, when you approve something, it's automatically approved instantly inside Business Central. If you update a purchase order, for instance, we are matching the invoice automatically to the latest version of that purchase order. One of the highest benefits, of course, is that you're actually leveraging your D365 investment. You're using the D365 security. There's no need for an external cloud solution that you need to do audits on, because you have that investment that you put into your chart of accounts, your user roles, your security. All of that is leveraged by Exflow. Of course, also, you're using the same UI, the user experience for the accounts payable staff. They are working inside Business Central every single day. When they start processing invoices in Exflow, as you're going to see, user interface is the same, user experience is the same. You can use the same shortcut keys that you use in Business Central in Exflow. Exflow also adds the capabilities for machine learning and RPA or advanced business rules. So you can use this for matching functionalities. You can use this for creating business rules that drive automation. And as I said, with the visibility, not only can you see where in the process is, you get full process analytics. So you can actually just focus on where are the bottlenecks. You can work on that. So you can work both inside your organization to see, okay, where are the people who are not approving invoices quickly enough, as well as where are the suppliers that are sending the invoices that have lots of discrepancies. So moving on from that, let me show you the process that Emil is going to demo across. To start off with, Exflow is data capture agnostic. Most of our customers use ReadSoft Online because that's the high-end product for data capture. They've been in the business of OCR and data capture for more than 30 years. We are looking at, of course, the alternatives that Microsoft might bring to the table. But as for now, if you have a data capture solution, you can continue to use that, because the only thing Exflow needs is an XML file. And we bundle this with ReadSoft Online, so you can buy it from directly from Signup Software, and you will be able to get support directly from Signup Software. Once that data is captured, we import it automatically and start validating it automatically inside Exflow. And all of this happens inside Business Central. So we are validating against your master vendor data. We are validating against all of the business rules. So all of the validations that you would do, all the checks and balances that would have been done manually, is automatically performed by Exflow. So this, of course, lowers the risk of fraud. It acts as a filter. It stops duplicate invoices or invoices with faults from entering the system. Based on that data, we will then intelligently pre-code this. And there's two ways of doing that. We can either use machine learning to, based on historic invoices, code invoices that are clustered in a certain cluster that come from, a certain supplier, a certain value, a certain frequency. They can be coded the same way. Or we can set up a bunch of business rules, robotic process automation in this, so we can actually, based on, for instance, if you get an invoice from supplier A with the reference to department B, well, then code it this way. This increases the consistency of your coding. It also lowers the time and the manual work that the AP automation, because they will get a coding suggestion. Even if you have the business users that will code, they will also get this suggestion. So you're basically providing a service to your business users that as you send it out for approval, if it needs approval, it's already pre-coded. All of this can, of course, be changed or edited. Based on that, we will then look at ways to automate the processing. I'm going to start from the bottom here. So we start with looking at, can we match this against a purchase order, against a goods receipt? We can match with tolerances. We can match with both tolerances when it comes to a value or the cost, line item cost. We can also do tolerances based on quantity. And if it doesn't match, well, Exflow works on a line level basis. So we can actually allow 3 lines that match to be automatically matched, and the only line that doesn't match, the exception, only that one will be automatically then sent out for approval. We also have a functionality that's called agreement matching, and this is really, really, really good for subscription-based costs or recurring invoices where there isn't a purchase order that you will match it against. So think mobile phone bills or utilities or rents or leases. Any type of subscription can be managed by the Exflow agreement matching capabilities. It works more or less like a blanket purchase order, but you can set very much the bunch of checks and balances on that as well. You can say that, well, this is the total value for the agreement or the contract. This is the total value per invoice that I want to automatically approve. This is the frequency of the invoices. So say you have rents, you will approve only 1 invoice per month. If you get 2 invoices, well, the second invoice will be automatically sent out for manual approval. If we can't match things automatically, well then, based on the coding that we've done, Exflow proposes a workflow, an approval workflow. Of course, this can be edited as well, and it can also, mind you, be edited on by the end user. So if I, as an end user, I work in marketing, I get an invoice, I see it's something that I should share the costs with my IT department. Well, then I can split the line, and it will automatically, in real time, create a second workflow for that split and automatically shuffle that towards the IT manager. And then, since it's based on all the roles that you have in Business Central, the security of that workflow is based on the roles that you put in Business Central. Approval is at the top of this. We call it web approval because it can be done on any device. It can be done on your mobile phone. It can be done on your laptop. If there's an invoice for you to approve, you will receive an email. Click on a link in that email, automatically takes you to that web approval portal, and you can do basically anything that you could do inside of Exflow. There is also an approval interface inside Business Central that you can use. So there's multiple ways of getting that approval done. I see that most of our users are using it, and especially the business users. The way you can do it on a mobile phone is really smooth. So you get this very simple, very clear process that you can do. So it's very easy. We see that we look at the times when you actually process that, do the approvals. There are a lot of them are spent when people are commuting to work, commuting away from work. So it's really interesting to see that people are actually just approving things whenever they get that email, just click a link, you get the invoice image, you can see the coding, you can change the coding, you can automatically reroute it if you need to, and then just approve or reject or put it on hold. If it's approved, regardless of how, if it's approved by manually or through automation, through the agreement matching or the purchase order matching, it's set for final posting. Anywhere inside Business Central where you could probably need to look at the invoice image is available. So it's really interesting that way. Usually AP will have that as a final check, and then they will run a batch job that automatically posts all this. We do have Power, as I mentioned, we do have extra visibility because of the Power BI analytics. And that said, let's just jump into the solution now. And I'm going to hand this over to Emil Stridfelt, one of our senior consultants, and he's going to take you through this process inside Exflow. Emil, over to you.
Thank you very much. Perfect. So my name is Emil Stridfelt, as Toby kindly introduced me as, senior consultant at Exflow, or sign-up software. I work as an implementation consultant, and I will show you the process. I will start with showing you Kofax Readsoft Online, our preferred solution that we also sell, but you can use other OCR interpretation tools out there as well with Exflow. So just to give you an idea, you get an inbox with all the invoices that you can do manually. You can set everything to go through automatically if they're all interpreted correctly. You just choose all or one, and you open them up. So when you first get started with the system, or with Kofax in this case, this is what it would look like, and you'd get some fun colors, yellow and red, based on if it's thinks it's correct or incorrect. In my case, since I've run this invoice through a couple of times before, it's all green and all correct, which means that it's good to go. So this one could be an automatic send it through. But you can also see I've chosen to interpret lines, as we have the capability to match lines, separate lines to separate orders in BC as well. And if something is interpreted incorrectly, it's very easy just to select the column that you want to reinterpret a value in, and then drag it over the correct value, and it will remember that for the next time. So that was the short Kofax demo. So let's go into the fun part. Exflow in BC. So hopefully this should be a fairly familiar view for most of you. I'm in, obviously, a Kronos company with Exflow Role Center. You can use whatever role center you want and just add the necessary items or actions that you want to have. Ideally, in using Exflow, everything should be automatic. You should import things automatically. It should be created automatically. We work on an exception basis, so ideally nothing should have to be approved, since it should have already been approved as an order or as a contract. So it should go right through and be basically posted through jobs. But in my case, that would be very boring to showcase. So the first place where the invoice will land after being interpreted by the OCR interpretation software is the Exflow import journals. I've created two batches, two inboxes, let's say, where I separate two different types of invoices. One for PO matched invoices and one for expense invoices. You could add more based on who has interpreted the invoice and so on and so forth. I will start off by going into the expense invoice inbox, let's say. You can see the first invoice that's been selected here is the phone company. You have the PDF preview on the right-hand side, and some other fun fact boxes, which I'll go through in a second. But all the information which is non-static for this vendor is interpreted from the OCR interpretation software, in this case, Kofax. So it's taken the vendor document number, all the dates, and all that sort of stuff reference from the invoice itself. The fun thing with this invoice is I've connected this reference to a specific contract. So you can see I have a contract number 1. And if we just quickly go into Exflow contracts to show you very quickly. The contract is built up by rules. So you'll set limits on amounts, when it's valid from, and when it's valid to. what the invoicing period looks like and how many invoices in that period you allow. So if anything of this falls outside of your rules in the contract, it will tell you. It will not be automatically matched, and it will definitely not automatically approve invoice if you've selected it to do so. You can also copy attachments. So if you have a contract which has been signed, you can attach that attachment to every single invoice which is matched to this contract. You can also assign an Exflow purchase code, which is a predefined coding, which is set up in Exflow. Just to show you what one of these looks like, if we go in here, this could be however many lines you'd like, and it could be whatever type you want. So it could be item or charge. You choose the number or the item number or whatever it would be. And then you also assign which weight or which allocation of the full amount should be on each and every single line. And then you could do the pre-coding here with the department code if you have certain things like that, with the job numbers. So basically you shouldn't have to do anything when the invoice comes. It should be automatically coded for you. And we should be able to see that when we look at the invoice again. So we're back in the inbox here. You can see I have 2 lines, and it has the amounts automatically divided up as I wanted it to be. And it's got the specific department codes for the specific line. And as you can see on the right-hand side, I see the approval proposal for this specific line. If I select the line below it, it has a different first approver. And that would be based on, in my case, the department code. You could also have a specific first approver for each line, which would be automatically taken from the reference, for instance. I don't have that in this case. What you can do, you can always Control I, which is basically a command to download the PDF to view it in a separate screen. You can do this from any view, which is directly correlating to this invoice. So you can even do it from the normal invoice card itself in BC, if you have Exflow. So what I'll do is I'll do F9 to create this invoice. And this could obviously be a job as well, so you could automatically create these invoices if they're all correct. So that one's gone from my inbox here, and we'll see it in a second in a separate inbox, but I'll just go through this second invoice here. So this is not matched to a contract at all. So this is just a wild expense invoice, let's call it. And in this case, what I have here is a reference Marie Lopez. So that means that Marie Lopez has been put as a first approver. You don't need to have Marie Lopez as the first approver. But if I go into the reference card, you can assign different things. So I've assigned it to be first approver Marie Lopez. I could assign a Exflow purchase code that we just looked at. To have a specific coding if I like, or a specific approval rule if I don't want the system to automatically find the correct rule for the line. Since once again, we work with approvals of lines. So every single line will be given or assigned an approval rule based on the filters that you have. I will show you an approval rule after I've created this. In this case, I have a proposed GL account of 4051. This is put on the vendor itself, so you can assign the Exflow purchase code or a Propline GL account, so proposed GL account on the vendor itself. You could also activate our machine learning, where it will automatically look at all the history of the vendor and the invoices, even before you had Exflow, and it could give you the best example based on when it was last used, how many times you've had that coding, and so on and so forth. I don't have much more interesting things apart from the amounts here. So what I'll do is I'll create this one with F9. And before we go into the fun parts with the PO matched, we'll just have a look at the 2 created invoices. So I will go to approval status, so Exflow approval status. This is where all the active invoices are. So again, this is ideally where you'd have a job to make sure that everything that is ready for posting, that means it's come in. And in this case, it was a contract. Everything was fine. It was already approved to the contract, since we have approval on contracts and approval rules as well. So this one has been put to ready for posting automatically. So this one should just go right through and be automatically posted. You can also see at the bottom here, it's been automatically approved by a specific user that I've assigned, but you can see who the original approver would have been if it needs to be approved. And again, this looks very familiar to the last view. You have the header in the top, you have the lines below that, and then if I change which line I've selected, you can see the approver for that specific line. And the PDF preview on the right-hand side, along with incoming documents and discussion panel. So this is where you can have basically chat with the users. So if you mention someone with the @ sign, as you can see, it will generate an email to be sent to that person, and it will say, you have been mentioned on this invoice, giving them a quick sort of one-time view into that invoice to view it and comment back if needed. If we have a look at this one here, which is active, so this one's actually an invoice which needs to be approved. So we can see here that Marie Lopez is a current one. So she needs to approve it before it gets sent to Victor Griffin. If I go into the approval web, so this is our Exflow approval web. So this is where the users would log in. Generally, is what they do. You can approve from inside BC as well if they have access. But this is where the users generally will be taken. They'll get an email, they'll click the email, and this is what they'll see. They'll see the inbox where they can see all their invoices that they need to approve right now. You have a separate inbox with the due invoices, the ones which are past the due date. You can also see if you have invoices which are coming in the future where you're not the first or the current approver. You can have a look at the recent invoices which you have approved and coded and open them up and see what the coding looks like. And you can set invoices on hold if you're waiting for something from the vendor, for instance, as well as searching for any invoices based on what rules you've set on your user or you've been set on your user. You can search for only your invoices or everyone's invoices, since everything is permission based. You have a very nice inbuilt manual where you can have a look, read through how to use the approval web with short GIF files to show you them as well. And whenever there's a new feature, it will be highlighted with red. So you can scroll down and have a look at the new features that's been added to the product. You are able to set your own replacer. So if you go on holiday or parental leave or whatever it would be, if you're ill, you can set a replacer to handle your invoices during the time that you're away. You can do some customizations of your own, like setting the language and changing what your inbox would look like if you don't need to see the vendor name or the company. You could choose whatever you want and rearrange them. And as well, if you have any messages, they'll be shown here. So if I just click on this invoice here, we'll see what it will look like for a user when they approve it. It's very similar to BC View, but a bit more flashy. So you see a big, large PDF image here of the invoice itself. You can see the coding and the lines. And if you have access, you can recode this invoice and it will automatically change to the correct approval rule if you do so. So everything is dynamic. Dynamic approval have approvals based on dimensions. So dimension owner, you can set that up as well. And if you allow the user to split line, you can split the line on different accounts and different cost accounts. And when you're in here, what I can do is I can briefly show you what it would look like if you're using a phone. It's very intuitive. So let's go for Samsung because I'm an Android guy. So refresh the page. So if you log in through the phone, this is what it will look like. You have access to the same areas, but it's obviously not as large, so you can't see it all at once. So you need to click it to see the different places, which you can see before. But again, you just click on the invoice. You can see the header, see the lines which you are able to change if you're allowed to, according to the permissions you've been set to you. And you can also see the PDF, and you can pinch to zoom. I only have one mouse, so I can't pinch to zoom here, but just take my word for it. And approving an invoice is as easy as clicking on the two green check marks, and then you can press approve. You can also reject it. If it's something incorrect, that'll send it back to AP, giving them, you're required to write a comment, so you'll write a comment to the AP to say why you've rejected it. The same goes for putting on a hold. You need to put a comment. You can forward the invoice to someone else. and that will also require a comment. So you won't actually be approving the invoice, but you know who needs to approve it. If you're doing a lot of coding changes, you can validate the documents to see if it's allowed to be approved at all, or if you're missing some things. And then you can save the document if you do coding and want to continue it later on. I will just do the simple thing by approving it. And it's gone from my inbox. If we go back to BC, you can see that Maria Lopez has approved this invoice, and right now it's Victor Griffin. So now it's waiting for Victor Griffin to approve it. And based on the job queue transaction that's been created, an email will be sent out at a designated time to Victor Griffin telling him he has an invoice to approve, or invoices to approve if there's more than one. If we jump back to our Exflow import journals and have a look at the PO matched, so this is a fairly simple one which I've created. So this is based on header matching. So I've interpreted an order number in the header, and it's taking the receipt number for the order because we work with receipt numbers. So it needs to be receipted for it to match. You can also do line interpretation. So you could have multiple orders for one invoice. And in that case, you would look at the order number for each line. You look at the number, could be the vendor item number or the item number, along with the quantity and unit cost. And as Toby very kindly said before, it works on exception basis. So generally, the customers I have implemented, they will have it so it automatically proves it if it's all correct. But if there's a variance in the amount, you could still create it, or it could be automatically created, but it will need to be approved by someone, because then either the order is incorrect or the invoice is incorrect. So someone needs to make that choice to see what the issue is. But it doesn't stop the process unless it goes way beyond the limits, because you'll set every limit up that you need to have. And another neat feature that we have is the total amount we have here. It's calculated, it compares the interpreted lines, or the lines from the receipt number, and compares it to the amount in the header. And if there's a missing value, for instance, in my case, I know it's 50 euros in this case. I've set a rule up, so if there's up to I think it's like 70 euros, I will automatically code the remainder of the header amount on a separate line and put it as freight. Because at least in Europe, freight is not something that's usually on the invoice on the lines itself. It's like an additional charge at the bottom saying shipping 50. So it's a lot easier just assuming rather than just having to manually add this every single time. And again, this approval rule is based on it being perfectly matched or not, and on the criteria such as if it's an invoice matched to a purchase order. I will show you those in a second. I will just create this one as I like doing it manually here. And if we go back to approval status, we can see it's been automatically put to ready for posting because everything was within my limits, even the freight charge. If we go to Exflow approval rules, approval rule list, just to show you quick what it would look like. For instance, we had the IT rule for the one that we approved. It's based on filters. So we have the code, which is relevant to just IT, and the name is also just the name. But then you can define it to be for orders, invoice, or quotes specifically, or if it's blank, it means for everything. And then you go into more, even deeper, where you can define if it's a cost account invoice, matched against the purchase order, and so on and so forth. But the main thing is that we assign filters. And it needs to hit all the filters for the rule to be chosen. So in my case, it's depending on it being the department code IT. It could be 2 different dimension codes. And then you will assign the approval rule, so which approvers you need to have. In my case, I only have Victor Griffin, and the first approval was taken from the reference. You could add more. So you could put Henrik Ward in. You could even put it so that Henrik Ward won't be added if it's below 50,000, and if it's over 50,000, he will be added automatically. And that's very basic on how to set up rules, and also you can do it in a different way when you use the dimensions. I have not set this up in my environment, but that's also easy to do. Just to show you for the documents that we have, they have a vendor the invoice purchase invoice card behind it, so the standard invoice card, which should replicate the Exflow document exactly, especially when it's ready for posting. Obviously, when it's out for approval, the approvers aren't changing the purchase invoice, they're changing the Exflow document. When it comes to it changing status for ready for posting, that's when we'll do certain checks to make sure that the documents are identical. And then if you have it set up properly with the jobs and everything, this should be automatically posted. So if you just post one of these manually by F9, we can see it goes through the standard posting, doing the standard checks along with some additional Exflow checks. And we have a document number. Just to complete this demo here, we go to Exflow history. We can see Exflow approval status history. So this is where all the posted documents are. Again, it's a very familiar view, very similar to the previous one. This is all static information now because this has been posted already. So you can see the header, you can see the lines, and you can see the approvers who approved it and any comments along the way. And you also have the invoice card in the background. And easy access to navigate, which shows you the GL entries for the AP personnel to see how it's been posted.
And there we are. Well, thank you, Emil. Thank you for that presentation of how Exflow works inside Business Central. I hope it gave you all a good view on the capabilities briefly. We'd be glad to show you a more in-depth demo, of course. There's over the past 2 decades, we've added so much functionality, it's hard to just cram them into 20 or 30 minutes. So we'd be glad to help and assist if you want to know more specific information about how Exflow works in specific use cases, for instance. But I hope we showed the way you can automate the invoice processing, the way we can automate the approval workflows, the way we enable end users to easily update or change. We also showed how you could leverage the automation capabilities to provide the pre-coding capabilities and all of the ways that Exflow can automatically process invoices for you. One of the most interesting pieces of Exflow is that a lot of these capabilities that Emil manually showed, a lot of them can be done, of course, in an automated fashion. But you can also set it up so you can flexibly grow into the solution. So many companies that use Exflow, they will start with some automation and then they will grow into the solution, increasing the automation capabilities over time. And as you increase the automation capabilities, your processing times will decrease, your processing costs will decrease, and the level of control that you have over your invoice process will, of course, increase. So, Scott, back to you.
Thank you, guys. That was fantastic. So, for those that are new to Endeavour, we've been around for 30 years now with key focus on advisory services, implementation and upgrades, and ongoing optimization and support for our clients running Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365 Business Central, as well as on-premise software for Dynamics GP. Guys, that was an absolutely fantastic overview. You can really feel the enterprise nature of Exflow, and I think it's going to be a great fit for a number of our larger, more complex clients. Clients that are, over 2,000 invoices a month. So thanks again. Endeavour is Gold certified for small and mid-market cloud solutions, including Business Central, and focuses on ERP, data analytics, and all the cloud platform applications. We're here to help. With that in mind, next steps, reach out to Trish, James, or Steve. Phone numbers are here. You can also find us online at www.endeavorsolutions.ca. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.